if I can't talk myself into going into some cold water for a while, how am I going to handle the real challenges in my life? You know, with business, with family, with people getting sick, friends, things happening. I mean, let's be real. We've gotten pretty soft, to be honest with you. And there's really three reasons we don't do anything, right? There's indecision, doubt, and fear. I don't see any reason why. This is a very, very low risk for all people that are healthy, again, to try to get in better shape and have better health. Treading water is the same as drowning to people like you and me. You better start swimming. Welcome to I'm the One podcast. I'm your host, Rob Green.
All right, so successful entrepreneurs, I know they have to be able to risk. If you're not good with risk, most entrepreneurs are not going to succeed. So would you say that you're adventurous, like just in life in general?
So yeah, I consider myself adventurous. My family and I were just in Hawaii for a couple months for the summer.
Tough.
It's rough. Somebody's got to do it. No, it's hotter than Hades here in Phoenix in summer. I think in July it was a record for hottest month for a U.S. city ever in July. Fortunately, we were not here. We were in Hawaii, but we go zip lining, we go swimming, we end up swimming with sharks, not on purpose.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We went out snorkeling to see the turtles, and lo and behold, we ran across a bait ball of fish. You see the thousands of fish swimming in a big sphere.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies, Matt, free dove down about 10, 15 feet. And another 20 feet down, the fish all just moved apart, and there were 3 sharks down there.
Oh, did you know what kind?
It was debatable. He didn't go ask. So he wasn't really sure about what they were, but they looked like they were like black tip sharks, either that and somebody said Galapagos. But there were quite a few other boats in that area. It was right off of Oahu near Waikiki Beach. And my family was out there. We were all just snorkeling, hanging out. And I couldn't believe how chill everybody was. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
I didn't want to swim with sharks. I didn't want to do that. That's beyond adventurous to me. That risk reward ratio is not right.
Gotcha.
But we do. Yeah, we try anything that I always tell my kids, like anything that doesn't break your neck. Let's go try it. You might scrape up your knees or maybe even break a bone, but just don't do anything that's permanent damage and you'll be all right.
There you go.
So
then what's lately, besides swimming with sharks, what's the craziest thing that you've done?
Yeah, I actually bought a tub and filled it with cold water, and now I purposely get in every morning. So I think a lot of people think that might be crazy. In my world, and what I mean by that is my close friends that are entrepreneurs and tend to be a little bit more on the adventurous side, we've been talking about this for a while. I mean, I know a bunch of people have talked about this for a while that I'm close with, and you hear it on some podcasts. So it feels like, to me, everybody's talking about it.
Right.
But the reality is, so many people I now talk to about it, I bring it up to, they're like, that's crazy. Wait, I hate it. And to be honest,
do they not know it? Have they not heard about it?
I think a bunch of people haven't heard of it.
Wow.
And you sound like you've heard of it quite a bit too.
Oh, yeah. It's in my space. It's my people.
Because the whole social media engine now reinforces what you're with, the people you follow and things like that. So for me, I had multiple friends. My friend Shauna, she owns a gym. She shared with me probably maybe a year or two ago. I mean, maybe even before that, I heard Tony Robbins talk about it and having a cold plunge at his house.
He's got one. Yeah, I've seen him. He walks outside and he jumps right in the hole.
And that was probably a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then a guy I work with, Joshua, he's been doing it for a while. He was telling you got to try it, Rob, you got to try it. And then a few months ago, I was out in LA, went to dinner with a buddy of mine, Nate. And Nate was like, man, are you doing cold plunge? You seem like a cold plunge kind of guy. And I said, no, I grew up in Minnesota. I hate the cold water. And he's like, you've got to do it. He did the Wim Hof event out in Poland.
Ooh.
So I think it's like 300-400 people. You get together for 4 or 5 days, the breathing. You're in.
That's hardcore.
You're a cold lake for 10, 15 smart. It's really, you're breaking through the ice to get in.
Yeah, that's not a tub with ice.
That wasn't going to be day one for me. I knew that right away. But but he convinced me. He's like, there's all these effects, and the one thing that Nate said to me that I really liked a lot, he said, I do it every day, every morning. And he said, and no matter what happens at my job that day, it's not going to be as difficult as me getting in that freezing cold water that morning. So it kind of, again, we talked about anchoring effect, a recent episode, and we were talking about how to set up the relative nature of it. So for him, this sets the bar for difficulty for the rest of his day. So it's giving him that relative standpoint. He's like, whatever I do isn't going to be as hard as getting in that cold water. And I've been doing it now for a little while, and I don't love it. I mean, I love the after effects. I got to talk myself into it still to this day. Each time when I get in the morning,
Really?
this morning, I
What's
still
your
had to be like,
what's your mindset going in? Like, how do you have a specific like triggers that you have to get in, or is it just like
it depends on the day.
are you
Sometimes
just
I got to
like
like talk to
whining the entire
myself.
time as you're getting in?
Sometimes I got to talk to myself and get myself psyched up. I believe in forcing functions. And what I mean by that is if you set something up, kind of force yourself to do something.
Mhm.
In this example, I'm using my family as my forcing function.
Okay.
So my wife and my kids. And I'm
As
like,
an
listen,
example?
well, no, I'm forcing them to do it,
Oh,
which then forces me to do it.
oh, yeah. You
Because, like,
you
listen,
can't
my
do that.
12-year-old just got in the cold plunge for 2 minutes. Like, come on, if she's doing it,
Do as I say, not as I do. Right?
I can't wimp out and
No.
not do it for longer than she does it.
Sure.
So they've been joining me on this venture lately, the last couple of weeks, and my wife hates it with a passion.
Every day?
They've been doing it a little less. I've been doing it every day, every day.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm working down, trying to get down. I've done 42 degrees, coldest I've done so far.
What's like, is there an unsafe? I'm sure.
Boy, I feel like I've watched Huberman, watched Peter Attia. I've listened to what these guys are talking about. I don't know if there's a perfect protocol. I'm kind of following more of the Huberman style that he said at least 11 minutes a week is what he said on a podcast. So I'm trying to do like 2 to 3 minutes
Per day. Okay.
per day.
I just did math in my head.
And somewhere between 42 and 50 degrees, depending on what's going on. I mean, again, I've got a room off my garage, and it's pretty hot in there still right now because it's 105 degrees outside.
Sure.
So the chiller is struggling sometimes to get it too cold or get it colder. But the goal is to get down to like 39 degrees and sit in there for a couple minutes. I've done a couple different things where I'm actually doing a contrast. So I'll go into the sauna for 20 minutes, go in for 2 minutes in cold plunge, go back to the sauna for 10 to 20, and then go back in for a couple more minutes. And that is unbelievable. That is a game changer for me.
With the tub, how does it get, is it just a chiller that chills it up? Like you turn it on, you got to wait for a minute.
Yeah, we'll put some show notes. We'll put links in the show notes to some of the resources that I use to do my research.
Perfect.
I went probably a non-traditional route in that we import from China all the time. We buy from manufacturers. So I just reverse engineered a couple of the better selling products, found their suppliers, and then reached out to suppliers.
Nice.
And that way I could get exactly what I wanted. So the size I wanted, whether I want a logo on it or on the side of it, or what I want a chiller.
Yeah.
So I kind of identified what was important to me.
Sure.
I mean, you can go as cheap as buying a $150 stock tank at Tractor Supply,
Right.
and put ice in it and water, and you've got a cold plunge.
All right.
Like you're ready to roll. But I wanted something that was a little bit more hands off and more convenient.
Yeah.
And so the keys for me, the must, I was just messaging a buddy about this last night because he was asking about it because he's going down this road now. We've all been talking about it.
Nice.
And I said, the must for me is I must have a chiller that is a plug-in chiller that has ozone filters and Wi-Fi. And I wanted something that's more than like a 0.5 horsepower because we live in Arizona and I needed it to be strong enough to do it. So I can program my chiller via my phone, an app on my phone. It's got the ozone to keep it clean. It's got the filter to keep it clean. And that thing, we just turn it on and leave it, let it run. And it just filters the water through and keeps it nice and cold.
Love it.
Yeah. And if you got to fight it, you throw some ice in there and or...
like during the summer?
Yeah, during the summer or depending on the quality of your tub then. So I've got one of those rigid inflatable tubs. I think Edge Theory's got one that they sell, but something similar to that. So you inflate it, but it's got a rigid nature to it.
Sure.
It's not the greatest insulator, even though the lid on it. So I'm exploring a couple different other options to have it more insulated.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to share any ideas at imtheone.com or on the YouTube channel, that'd be great. But we're exploring all these different options of how do we keep it better insulated for our environment. I've looked at all the different options of that. But the real big reason I love it, I mean, it seems like there's data around the benefits from the health perspective. I feel great. Again, that's anecdotal.
Okay.
But the real reason I do it for me is it's the mind over matter. I just feel great making the decision to get in.
Yeah.
I get out. I towel dry myself. I don't get into a hot shower right away or a warm shower or go outside and warm up. I just towel dry, let it evaporate a little bit.
You're in a warm room, correct?
I'm in a warm room, but I go back inside to the air conditioning where it's, 72 degrees.
You're just punishing yourself.
No, see, it's interesting. That's a good way to think about it. A lot of people think about it like punishing. Like, why would I ever do that, right? And for me, it's just mind over matter. It's like, if I can't talk myself into going into some cold water for a while, how am I going to handle the real challenges in my life? With business, with family, with people getting sick, friends, things happening. I mean, I mean, let's be real. We've gotten pretty soft, to be honest with you.
Really?
I mean, don't even get me started on how soft most of the people are, I think. But if we can't just say to ourselves, listen, it's cold water. It's 40 to 50 degrees. It's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Get in the water, see how you feel, try it out, get out of the water, towel dry off. I mean, obviously, if you've got some health conditions or something like that, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV.
Sure.
So please go get yourself checked out, figure out how you want, what you need to do to make sure you can do this safely.
Right.
But with that being said, I get tremendous benefits out of it psychologically.
Yeah. What's the feeling that you get? Like, is it, you talk about, the mental fortitude that it builds within you, and you're doing this in the morning, correct?
Yeah, I do in the morning. So I get actually euphoric. I get energized from it, right? I come out of it, and there's some biological effects that, there's other better people to listen to about this, real scientists and neuroscientists about this. But it feels like there's a dopamine release. I think there's a norepinephrine release. Honestly, for me, it's, there's some studies that show that there's increases in spikes dopamine, reducing inflammation. I'm getting a little older now. The joints feel it a little bit more. I play soccer a couple of times a week, and the ankle, the shoulder, I'm lifting weights. I mean, everything kind of, it's a little bit of an inflamed nowadays. So for me, it's about reducing the inflammation. And then how I feel amazing, and I feel energized and ready to go. And the clarity, there's nothing better than if you're feeling a little groggy, go jump in some 40-degree water for a couple minutes. And I promise you're not sleeping through that.
The mental clarity you're talking about.
100%.
Is it, so when you're in it, like for the 2 minutes or whatever, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting and I can't speak to everybody's experience with this, but for me, the hardest part is just getting in. I get right in, and then I get used to it real fast. Okay. About the first 15 to 30 seconds, I go to my neck. I go all the way up to my hairline of my neck.
Completely in, except
entire body's all the way in, all the way up to my hairline of my neck. So,
reason for that?
I believe there's some benefits to getting all the way in and getting above your spine. But for me, I just want to get all my body in there, try to feel it. I mean, all the blood rushes to the core, trying to protect your body, right? So for me, I just get in.
There's a cortisol spike, right?
I think there's a cortisol reduction, I think.
Oh, really?
Well, let me find out.
Well, no, I'm thinking because it's like you just shocked your body.
Yeah, there's cold shock.
So I think that was the whole thing, is like, and if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right, where we live in this state of raised cortisol, right? So what it does is
it's good.
It hits you. And so, which is good for you, because then it pops, and then you come down to a baseline where we live in this sort of like, this is where we should be. It's our stress line is always a little bit above, because our cortisol is always going, because we live in a stressful world. But when you do what you did, you jump in a plunge, you spike it so hard, it comes back and it regulates you back to homeostasis.
Like a new baseline.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. So immune system, right?
Yeah.
That's another part.
Yeah. I mean, I don't typically get sick, but I mean, I think that it feels like it bolsters it to me. So for me, the main benefits, as I feel energized, I've got mental clarity, and my perception is that it feels like it's a reduced inflammation.
Sure.
So I mean, everybody should check with their doctor and find out if they're capable of doing this. So
we all die from stress. Stress and sugar is what I tell people. Inflammation kills us, like causes everything bad from us, to cancers, to uncomfortableness. So if you can spike your cortisol and then it comes back down, instead of living right here above your baseline, which ends up killing you, if you can spike it and bring it back down, now you're living where you should be, right?
Yeah.
So that's, to me, the major effect. That's what I look at.
Wow, that's interesting, because for me, it's more about the mental and the energy and the dopamine.
That's amazing though too.
And I feel amazing on it. Yeah. So for me, it's just like gives me that sharpness. So I'm really ready to rock and roll. It's funny. I tried this a few months ago for the first time. I went to a friend's gym and I did the contrast. So I did the sauna, and then I did the cold plunge, and sauna and cold plunge. And a few people on my team, I went there, back, and they both came out of their offices. They go, "Hey, what'd you think?" I said, "I'm buying one today." And I think it was like my third or fourth time of doing it. And they were cracking up laughing. I said, "Why?" They said, "We wrote this on the board when you left. You're going to come back and be like, I'm buying one today."
Nice.
And I mean, for me, it was a no-brainer. It's like, I don't want to go drive 15 minutes one way.
Sure.
Get in all fairness to all the providers out there, get in a tub that a bunch of other people, and I know it's supposed to be clean and it's filtering through, but now I got to get in a tub with a bunch of other people that have been in it at least at some point. Sure. And then I got to drive back home. Like, I just want to have access to this. And I feel like from an ROI perspective, not just the monetary, I'm saving time.
No, right.
And I get tremendous benefits from 2 to 3 minutes.
I'm with you.
I walk into that room, I get into the cold water, I get out, I dry myself off, I'm done. So let's say less than 5 minutes, I've gotten a significant benefit to my day and the way to start my day off by just spending 5 minutes.
And what you just said, because you're doing it in the morning, and what I always tell people is like, you win your morning, you win your day. So if you go in and you start doing that and you get hit with this sort of injection of power, if you want to say, look out, get out of my way.
Yeah, and it's a fun way to test yourself. I think about it that way. It's like, all right, I did 2 minutes. I did 2 minutes at 42 degrees. Can I do 2 minutes at 41? Can I do 3 minutes at 42 degrees? And I think about it that way. And, my kids, I have 2 daughters, 14 and 12, and they were playing around with it. And they're like, Dad, I went 230 on there at 53 degrees or whatever. So we've been playing around with it as a family and trying some things out. And it's fun to get them involved and really integrate that into what I think is a healthy habit to build.
Sure.
And for them, it's the same thing. It's about fortitude, decision making, right? It's like, hey, do you want a cold plunge today? You don't have to. I'm going to encourage you to do it, but do you want to do that today? And my older daughter is really good about it. So she'll be like, hey, Dad, sometimes she doesn't even tell me now. She's like, hey, I just cold plunge for two minutes just after she does
Are you
it.
sure
So,
she's not telling you?
well, she might be lying. She might be exaggerating a little bit, but no. So the other day, she said, hey, Dad, I didn't go to sleep very well last night. I'm going to pop in the sauna for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to go rinse off and then go to bed. So we're just trying to build better habits and really get value out of it. I'm grateful for our position, be able to have and buy a sauna and a cold plunge and then create that scenario for my kids and for my wife and I to be able to do things like this. And then it's like, what are the downstream effects of that, right? And that's the really tough part. It's like, how do you measure that? We talked before a different episode about anchoring effect and how you can really think about like risk and reward and things like that. It's like, all right, it is expensive. It can be very expensive. Saunas are even more expensive than cold plunges. And you can get crazy and spend 10, 20 grand on a cold plunge if you want, right? Really nice wood and it's beautiful and it looks great and it's even colder. But at the end of the day, it's like, it probably doesn't make a cold plunge a whole lot better. But what is the value that I'm getting out of it, right? And it's that limited amount of time. It's a one-time or minimum investment ongoing. If you spend a couple $1,000s, and then how does that change? It's like an inflection point. Like if you use it every day, how do you see yourself? How do you feel about yourself now? I think that's a big effect. Yeah. So when you start, and I joke with some friends about this, I sent some of my friends in this mastermind a picture of me after I got out of the cold plunge. I said, listen, guys, it's the requirement nowadays. If you have a cold plunge and you buy one, you cold plunge, you got to send your friends or put it on Instagram, some picture of yourself. I'm going to have to throw that on. I'm going to have to throw that out there. But it's like almost a requirement. You buy it, you got to tell everybody about it. I didn't do CrossFit a few years ago when everybody had CrossFit. You're like, what do you got to do when you join CrossFit? You got to tell everybody you're doing CrossFit. You got to tell everybody I went to CrossFit today. And I feel like the cold plunge is getting into that a little bit. So I don't want to be the obnoxious guy that tells everybody about it. But man, I love it. I can't stop talking about it.
No, I love
it. Tell everybody about it. I've just become that guy. And now I'm a preacher for cold plunge, it feels like.
Well, it's also funny you said ROI. So it brought me back to my childhood when my parents were very frugal. And my dad ended up buying a hot tub. And I remember it was like, say it was 5,000. Every time we got in, the number kept going down. So we didn't tell like, how much was this one? So if you're looking at it that way, it's an accountability. You got to use it. You get it, use it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that for me, I look at costs or investments, like how much use am I going to get out of this, right? And let's just pick a round number. Say you can build one on your own for $2,000, or let's say even $3,000. You build one for $3,000, or you buy one for $3,000. You can definitely build them for less than that, but you buy one for $3,000. Things will go out. I think the tub, if you get the right tub's going to last you quite a while, provided you take care of it and keep it clean. Your chiller might go out after maybe a year, 2, 3 years. Even if you only got 1 year out of that, right? And then you use it every day, right? $10 a day, that's $3,650. You paid less than $3,650. You basically paid $10 a day to feel better. How much of us waste money on things that don't make us feel better, right? The food, the sweets, the caffeine, maybe something that doesn't make us feel better. And then it's really the hard part of like, is this really who you want to be? And I think the imaging part of change is really, really important. It's like, once you start to see yourself as somebody that exercises and a fit person, that's how you always see yourself. And so I think I've talked about this before. I don't know if you and I have talked about it, but like this whole Planet Fitness thing.
Yeah.
I heard this again the other day about this. They actually went after a target market of fitness enthusiasts, not people that actually work out, not gym bros, not people that want to go to the gym. Right. They classified and they said 92% of these people will never show up at our gym. but they'll pay $9 a month.
Wow.
I mean, absolute genius
No, I
business
was
model.
gonna say.
Super smart that they found that perfect customer that will pay them, but not go.
Yeah.
What a great business model.
That's amazing.
I'd love for people to pay me and then not use anything and not cost me anything ever after that happens.
I got a question about cold plunge. So where did it come from? Like, do you know where it originated?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't done a ton of research in it, but obviously it's been around for hundreds of years. All different types of cultures used it. The cold plunge has been around. I mean, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence to cold plunge. Athletes have been using it after exercise forever.
Yeah, I've always saw that. Like after the game, they're sitting in this cold tub.
But I don't think anybody really studied it. And it seems like until the last couple of decades. And now there's this debate, right? Do you cold plunge before? Do you cold plunge after? The research that I've heard and read and listened to is that you do it before if you want to build muscle, for example. So if I'm going to lift weights for hypertrophy or for strength training, I'm not going to cold plunge right afterwards. But if I go out and do a long mountain bike ride or I play soccer and I'm not trying to build muscle, I might just try to reduce my inflammation. As I've gotten older, I play soccer, it beats up my lower body. I think there's benefits, especially if it's 105 like it will be tonight when we play, to go home, jump in the cold plunge for a couple minutes, just kind of cool the body core down. I'll sleep better. I will be able to reduce my inflammation in my legs, my ankles. Yeah. And so I think there's really some benefits there. But to be honest with you, I think everybody should, provided they're in good health, explore these things on their own.
Yeah.
Right. And then we get to the point of like, all right, so that's my experience. This is what I learned. It took me a while. I wasn't a quick start on this one. Usually I am a quick start and try things early. I probably should have started this a year or two ago when I first heard about it. But sometimes we got to hear it from a few different people to take action. So for everybody that's listening today, this is your chance. So take action today. Don't wait like I did. You've probably heard about this from other people, but even if you have or haven't, take action today. Find a local gym, service provider, friend, something. Go do it and schedule it now. Schedule it as soon as you can possibly get in there and go do. And listen, don't feel bad. Do 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Do a minute. Try to do 2 minutes. Just take action. Try it for yourself. Don't believe me. See how you feel.
What about this though? So like that's even a stretch for people to even get to a gym or this and that. And I know it's not the same, but what about going into their shower and just cranking on the cold water and just having that be like the beginning steps?
So I hear that from a lot of people. And in all honesty, probably in most parts of the country, that'll work. Here in Arizona, the cold water is like 70 degrees.
No,
it's not even cold. I mean, I'll turn it on after a cold plunge. If I take a shower a little while later, it feels warm. At the coldest, the cold water will go. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're in, the upper Midwest or in Canada, I don't think you're going to have any problem using the cold water. It's going to probably be 50
that's
degrees.
Easier in, right? Or an easier way to start.
It's interesting because...
Or they introduce themselves to it.
Yeah, I think a cold shower works to introduce yourself to it. I'm a little more aggressive in that manner, though.
Oh, I see this.
I don't know why I need to go half measures. Like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Like, if this is something you want to try, just schedule it. And I do think there's some accountability there.
Yeah.
If you find a local gym or a provider, you go, you schedule it, and you pay for it, you're going to do it. It's a lot easier to not do it at the shower, to go, oh, I'm going to turn it down. Maybe not today.
You
I'll start it tomorrow.
Right. But here's the thing is like where you and I differ in this, where you you just jump in. A lot of times, especially when I'm coaching people, it's like, I know they're not going to jump. But I'm like, how do we baby step this? How do you get you there, right? So when I look at that, it all depends on the person. Some people are like you and they need to jump. And then there's other people that need to sort of, so there's different ways to do it for different types of people. But it's just like, I think the point is just do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is from a book I've read many, many times, Think and Grow Rich. And there's really 3 reasons we don't do anything, right? There's indecision, doubt, and fear. So if you haven't made the decision yet, but once you've made the decision to do something, I mean, it's from, and I won't even try to pronounce Latin, but it's from, I think, I'm going to try. I shouldn't do it. I think it's de cadere, I think it's de cadere, but it's basically to cut out or cut off.
Okay.
So the decision comes from cutting off all other options. So once you've made a decision, you've cut off all other options. That is your choice. That's the decision you've made. You should go forward.
Okay.
When you don't make a decision and you make half of a decision, or I think I'm going to do this, or someday, right, I'm going to do this, you're not really you're not committing to it. I feel like if you make a decision, it's a lot easier to follow through than if you kind of make a half. I'm half committed to doing it. And then if you don't do it right away, doubt creeps in, fear
easier to
creeps
say delay,
in.
yeah.
The
Tomorrow,
more
tomorrow,
time you
tomorrow.
give it, tomorrow and tomorrow, tomorrow turns into, you know what? It's August. I'm going to start working out January 1st.
And I'll tell you to piggyback on that, like to make a decision is great, but a lot of times our mind is going to be the mind. What I tell people to do is if you make that decision, write it down.
Yeah.
I think it's 42%. If you write it down, you're 42% more likely to do it. And that's not like a yearly goal. That could be like going to the grocery store or going to cold plunge or whatever. So to me, that would be my advice to anybody is like, if you want to do it and you're listening to this and you're like, hey, you know what? Sounds good. Write it down right now somewhere, whether it's in your phone, pen to paper is always a little bit better. Write it down. And then that solidifies it for you a little bit more.
Yeah. I've got a great riddle I picked up from somebody in my strategic coach group
Love riddles.
a few months ago. I don't know if I've ever just told you this one. You've got 5 pigeons on a dock and one decides to leave. How many pigeons are left?
4?
Most people say
no,
4.
that's the easy answer, but I would have to think about it to actually come to it. What is it?
5. Because he decided to leave doesn't mean he actually left.
Love it, love it. See?
He shared that with us a couple months ago, and I was like, I'm writing that one down.
Beautiful.
I'm putting that one under the great ways to think about things because we didn't say he left.
Yeah.
He made a decision.
Right.
And so I feel like I think what you're talking about with writing it down and doing it, I think decision is the first step.
Sure, of course.
You make a decision. And that's easy. There's no cost to making a decision. You just have to practice. And I feel like I talk this a lot with my kids about it. Like practice making decisions. It's like a muscle. The decisiveness comes through practice. Make a decision, be decisive, do it again, do it again, do it again,
repetition,
do it again.
Sure.
Don't be afraid to change your mind if you get new information, but just make a decision.
Yeah.
Right? Now you've got decisiveness. Once you've made the decision, now the next step is taking action. And by taking action quickly, we're going to prevent or delay, hopefully, the doubt and fear that's going to creep in by waiting.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think I'll use this podcast as an example, right? I delayed recording some of these episodes. I decided in May to do this, but we went to Hawaii. We were gone for a couple months. And so that allowed a little bit of doubt and fear to kind of creep in personally. Like, should I do this? We already built this. Team built the room. We better do it. Like we already got some movement here. I better not be the one who wimps out and doesn't follow through. Right. But it's easy for that. We're all human. It's all going to creep. It's always going to creep in. Not always. It's sometimes going to creep into our mindset. Yeah. And so what can I do to help reduce the effect that indecision or that doubt or that fear that creeps in? And for me, at least, I think you just got to make a decision quickly. Yeah. Take action quickly. You don't have time for that to really settle in.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
So I think we circle back to the cold plunge. I think people should, if they're interested, I mean, maybe people don't want to feel better. Maybe they don't want less inflammation or, more dopamine. But I think if they do, I think they should take action today. Literally, stop what you're doing right now, provided you're not driving. Stop what you're doing right now. Look up Google. Just Google it. Google some local provider, cold plunge in my area, and schedule something right now as soon as you can possibly get in and just go and try it. And then share in the comments and share what your experience was with it. I think it's a great experience. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I see this as one of those long-term things. I feel like I'm going to do
this the rest of your life.
I don't see any reason why I wouldn't.
Okay.
Provided the effects don't go away or something that's a better value in the time commitment. I don't know why I would stop doing this. Okay. If I stop doing this, it feels like weakness to me. Like if it feels great, I'm getting benefits out of it. I'm going to keep doing it.
I'll tell you,
it's a no-brainer.
Me.
Well, you're sold. Now I got to start selling cold plunges now.
There you go.
That's the next piece. We got to get that straight from China.
You just reconstructed one, right? You know how to do it.
Yeah, we'll put it on the one. We'll put it on the one on the side of the tub. We'll get everybody buying these.
I love it.
I think that there's plenty of great resources out there for everybody to start today, and I think that's the big thing: is get out there, get started today, find out what you want to do, try it a couple times, and listen. It might not be for everybody, but if it is, then think about it. Just think about your time.
You don't know until you try.
Don't know until you try. Take the chance. What do you got to lose? There's nothing to lose. So take that action and move fast on the cold plunge. I mean, I think the sauna is a whole different animal. We'll probably talk about that on a different episode. Sure. But I think this is something that it could be a game changer for a lot of people. I mean, we've got an epidemic in the United States about fitness and being healthy. I don't see any reason why. This is a very, very low risk for all people that are healthy, again, to try to get in better shape and have better health.
Love it.
So check us out at imtheone.com. Please comment. Ask me anything. jump on YouTube, and always stay curious and become the one. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends. Visit I'mTheOne.com and ask me anything. And as always, stay curious and never stop becoming the one.